In a project nearly 10 years in the making, the historic Walter Brewing Company has been reborn as a microbrewery in Pueblo, complete with a manufacturing facility and a cozy tap house located at the corner of D and Oneida Streets. In an effort spearheaded by co-owners Brett Bezona, John and Afton Volk, Rick and Diana Bailey, and Andy Sanchez, Walter's Beer is making a triumphant return as a 21st century craft beer by drawing from the brand's recipe a nearly 125-year-old history.
Back in the late 1800s, really Walter's history goes back to John Walter. And John was among many brothers in Wisconsin that essentially brought forward a brewing tradition from Germany. The brothers established many breweries. So at one time, Walter's had 5+ breweries in the U.S., Pueblo being one of them. And actually Martin Walter, that came to Pueblo in the 1800s, word has it that he was traveling through and stopped here at the depot. He was actually heading out to San Diego to start a brewery there, or at least look at starting one. Saw Pueblo, saw it was prosperous. There was an existing brewery. He ended up buying it and staying, and that began the brewing tradition here in Pueblo that is Walter's. Walter's, coming back to Pueblo, really began about 10 years ago. And we were doing some product development work up in the Denver area, and as a group of Pueblo natives began to start looking at the possibility of bringing Walter's back as a product here in Pueblo. So from there, we ended up taking letters of introduction out to Wisconsin and became fast friends with the family. And it was through the cooperation of the family and partnership that we began here again here in 2014, bringing Walter's back to Pueblo.
Walter Brewing had been a Pueblo institution from 1892 until its closure in 1975, and as light beer boomed, more full-bodied regional beers like Walter's were forgotten. The American microbrew revolution today puts Walter's in a perfect environment to thrive, but Sanchez and the ownership group were sure to go even further by fully paying homage to Pueblo's beer history, including the physical location of the brewery.
The history of the beer in Pueblo ties into other histories of beer in Pueblo and of different companies. And the building that we're in, we set up our tap room in what was a beer depot, a lager beer depot, going back to the 1890s. This is a picture of the very building that we're in. Our tap room is located in this section of the building, and this is the W.J. Lemp building. And this beer company would eventually become Falstaff Beer, and he also had a link to the Pabst family. So in terms of Pueblo beer history, we're in a building that essentially has housed beer in one form or another, going on into Coors, on into Miller, now Walter's, from the 1890s now into 2014. What we aim for with this building, as we move on from year to year, we will continue to make improvements on the building, and our main goal, our focus is to bring the building back as much as we can to what you see here.
Sanchez is quick to point out that Walter's is more than just a tap room, as the heart of the operation is a full manufacturing facility where Walter's beer will be packaged for sale in liquor stores around the region.
This is our manufacturing facility. This is the facility that focuses on distributing Walter's beer outside of Pueblo and beyond. And really what we're looking at is the culmination of 10 years. This is based upon bringing a brand back that existed in Pueblo for 80 years. Now back in 2014 is back again through also help with the Walter family. So behind me we have our storage tanks. Each one of these tanks are 20-barrel tanks, and each one holds about 600 gallons of beer. And right now, 4 of these tanks are filled with our Walter's Pilsner, which is the beer that we are working to distribute. This is our essentially the heart of our brew house. Our brew kettle is on the right. We have our mash tun on the left with our hot liquor tank right underneath the mash tun. So we take our grains, the grains go up through an auger into the mash tun. As the brewing process commences, once the brew is done on a typical brew day, we'll do 2 brews, and then 2 brews from this kettle will then fill up one of these holding tanks that you see here for fermentation.
The manufacturing focus of the business is what will lead to about 15 manufacturing jobs at the brewery and was the motivation for support by the Pueblo Economic Development Corporation in the Walters project.
What this room is to me is jobs, primary jobs. With Walters, as we ramp up our production here, the jobs that are associated with the manufacturing side, they meet that definition of what a primary job is in terms of the half-cent sales tax.